Greetings and welcome to a Professor Reed Microsoft Office walkthrough. For this assignment, we're going to be looking at Word 1G training. This is for Microsoft Office 365 2021. To get started, let's go ahead and scroll down to our assignment. And we are looking for Word 1G training homework. And we'll go ahead and load that up. First, we will download our materials. I highly recommend that you do not download all files. When you download all files, it downloads it as a zip file. And if you don't extract it properly, you could lose your work. So for this assignment, we are going to download our training instructions. We're going to download the file with your name. I'm not worried about the training results, but you can also download the training text and also the JPEG here, the picture. Once you have all of these opened up, let's go ahead and click on our student file. We can go ahead and open up your instructions as well. And zoom in here a little bit so it makes it easier for us to see. Make sure you hit enable editing. And we are good to start our assignment. So we are done with step number one. We needed to download all of our files. First things first, I recommend that on the Home tab here, under the paragraph grouping, turn on this little guy right here. It's our Show Hide button. When you click on the Show Hide button, it brings on these on-screen cues that will show you when you hit the enter button, when you've hit the space bar. It's our editing icons. They don't show up when we print, but they are good for a visual reference on our computer. So before we get started, a couple quick things. Notice that we have a tabbed interface. We have a Home tab, Insert tab. I have a Draw tab because I have draw functions on my computer. You may not have that tab. Design tab, layout, and so forth. Under each one of these tabs, you'll see we have groupings. We have a font grouping, paragraph grouping, styles grouping. So as I'm doing these walkthroughs, I'm going to direct you to which tab to go to, and I will direct you which grouping to go to. Microsoft Office has a really cool feature called Screen Tip. So if you're not sure exactly what an icon does, you can hover over it, and you'll notice that a little screen tip pops up and you can see exactly what that icon does. And Microsoft Office's interface is dynamic. So if you have it opened up on a full screen like this, notice that I have a lot of styles showing here. If I were to bring this down half screen, notice how it now condenses that interface. And I no longer have the large group of styles. I actually have to come over here and click on the styles button here in order to show those styles that we had when it was opened up full screen. So just keep that in mind as I'm doing these walkthroughs, that you may have to hunt for some of those icons because they may be condensed. So first things first, on step number 2, it wants us to change the top margin to 1.25 and insert the file name in the footer. Anytime that you want to change the margins of your document, it is under the Layout tab. Under the Layout tab, notice that we have our margins. We can click on Margins, and we're going to go ahead and do Custom Margins. Here we can change all of our margins, top, bottom, right, left. In this case, we only want to change the top margin to 1.25 and go ahead and hit OK. The second part of this is we need to insert the file name in the footer. And you're going to notice we're going to do that on a lot of our assignments. To do that, we're going to go to our Insert tab. Under our Insert tab, under our header footer grouping, we're going to click on Footer, go all the way down to Edit Footer. Once we're in the footer section, we need to put in the file name. And we want to do that as a field. To do that, come up here to our header footer tab. We have a grouping called insert, not to be confused with the insert tab, but we have a grouping called insert. And we want to click on document info and file name. For my Mac users, there are alternate instructions, so make sure you check on step 2 for your alternate instructions because the Mac interface is a little bit different. Once you have your file name down here, yours is going to look a little different than mine. Yours is going to have your name in it. Go ahead and click on close header and footer. And that will take us back to the top of our document. Very important, you have to hit close header footer, because if you do the rest of this in the header footer, it will be marked wrong. For step number 3, we want to click in the blank paragraph at the top of the document. This is what it means by blank paragraph. Anytime you see one of these icons right here, it's called a paragraph mark. That is considered a paragraph. So let's go ahead and type in business intelligence training videos. Capitalization matters in these assignments, so make sure you capitalize the B, the I, the T, and the V. Once you've typed that in, hit enter. And then type in biz intel media. Notice how I capitalized the B, the I, and the M. Now offers a full catalog of business intelligence training videos in an easy to view talk show format. And make sure you hit the period and press the space bar once. Now, whenever you type in text in these grader projects, double check your spelling. Like, notice how I misspelled catalog. I can go ahead and right click on it and select the correct spelling. Also double check all of your capitalizations. Notice that I got biz, intel media, business intelligence is capitalized, and then make sure we have the period and the space. Notice that the space, there's a little dot that signifies a space. So I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor right back to where I was right before that paragraph marking. And it wants me to insert the text that we downloaded, the training text. To do that, I'm going to come up here to my Insert tab. From my Insert tab, I'm going to come to my text grouping. And I'm going to hit the down arrow next to Object. Now you may just have the little itty bitty icon, but for me, I'm going to click the down arrow next to Object. And I'm going to insert text from file. I will navigate to my downloads folder because that's where I saved everything. And there it is. There is my training text. I'll click on it and hit insert. And it's going to insert the rest of the text for me, so we don't have to type it out. And we are done with step number 3. For step number 4, it wants us to change the line spacing of the entire document to 1.25. So hold down the Control key and hit A. When you hold down the Control key and hit A, it will select all of the text in the document. We'll go to our Home tab. From our Home tab, under our paragraph grouping, I have an icon right here with 2 arrows pointing away from each other, up and down, that says line and paragraph spacing. If I click on that, I will have line spacing of 1.5. Also, if I come down here to click on this little guy right here, I call this my paragraph settings dialog box button. If I click on that little box, it will open up my paragraph dialog box button. And there's going to be a lot of features in here that we're going to need, such as creating special first line indents, spacing before and after. Notice that it put the 1.5 spacing here for me as well. But for step number 4, it wants us to change the spacing after to 6 points. So where it says spacing after, I'm just going to hit the up arrow 2 times. So it says 6 point right here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Then lastly, in step number 4, it wants me to apply a first line indent. So I'm going to click in front of the word Biz Intel Media. Once my cursor's there, I'm going to come back up to that paragraph dialog box button right here. And where it says special none, I'm going to change it to a first line indent of 0.5. Now there are multiple ways to do this. I just want to get you familiar with this paragraph settings dialog box, as we're going to be going back and using it quite a bit. And go ahead and hit OK. And we are now done with step number 4. For step number 5, it wants us to select the title. So this right here, this business intelligence video, training videos, is the title. So go ahead and highlight that. It wants us to change the font size to 50. So we're going to come up here to my home tab under my font grouping here. I'll click on 11 where it says that it's the font size right here. And I'm going to change it to 50. But notice I don't have a 50 here. So I can just come up here where it says 11. I'm going to hit my backspace key. I'm going to type in 50 and hit enter. It also wants me to change the line spacing to 1.0. So with this still highlighted, I'm going to come up here to my home tab. Under my paragraph grouping, I'm going to click on line and paragraph spacing and change it back to 1.0. It wants me to center the title, and I can do this 2 ways. I can come over here to my paragraph grouping where I'm already at, and I can click on the center button. Or on my keyboard, I can hold down the control key and hit E for center. And the reason why it's control E and not control C is because control C is copy. And if you ever want to know what a shortcut is, a keyboard shortcut is for a particular item, if you hover over it and it gives you that screen tip, notice that it gives us, right here it says center and it says control E. So it'll always give you the keyboard shortcut, that way you can do it a little bit quicker. But anyway, I now have it centered, and it wants me to display the text effects and select the 3rd row first effect. So I still have business intelligence training videos selected. Under my font grouping here, I'm going to find the one that says text effects and typography. It's this highlighted blue A. I'll go ahead and click on that. And it says 3rd row, first effect. So I'm going to select the 3rd row, first effect, which looks like this black text color 1 outline right here. For step number 6, it says click at the beginning of the paragraph below the title. So I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor right in front of the B here. And it wants me to insert the picture that we downloaded. So anytime you want to insert something, it's a good idea to go to the Insert tab. So we'll click on the Insert tab. From the Insert tab, we're going to find where it says Pictures, which is under Illustrations right here. We're going to do this device. It's going to open up our Insert Picture dialog box. Once again, we're going to navigate to the Downloads folder. And we're going to select the W01G participants. And we'll click on that and hit Insert. And it inserts a quite large picture. Well, we're going to make some edits to this picture, make it a little bit more manageable. We're going to change the picture height to 2. Notice I now have what's called a contextual tab. A contextual tab pops up whenever you click on an item that has additional settings that you can change. In this particular case, a picture. So under our picture format, Notice on the very right hand side, I have our size grouping. I want to go ahead and change the height to 2. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my cursor there, click on it, and type in 2 and hit enter. Notice how it makes the picture a little bit smaller. It wants me to change the layout options to square. So I can do that 2 ways. I can click on the arrange grouping and click on wrap text and change it to square. Or I can also click on the layout button right next to the picture. I can click on this and change with text wrapping to square right here. And what that does is it will take the words and put them all around the picture. But it still looks a little funky. It's not exactly where we want it to be. And we'll fix that in the next step. But lastly, for this picture, for step number 6, we want to change the format. We want to format the picture with soft edges 5-point. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to find my picture effects. So it's going to be under my picture format. Right here, picture effects. And I want to do soft edges. And I want to do soft edges 5-point. And notice that I can hover over each one to find the 5-point. And notice now how it has a little bit of fuzziness around the edges. And the picture is looking pretty nice. All right, going to step number 7, we're going to move the picture where we want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start here, but we're going to go ahead and click on this layout button right here, the layout options. And then I'm going to come down here and click on see more. From here, I'm going to change the horizontal alignment. So where it says horizontal alignment, I'm going to click on horizontal alignment right here. And I want to change it to right relative to the margin. And then I'm going to change the vertical alignment to top relative to the line. So alignment right margin, alignment top line. And when I hit OK, it's going to flip-flop like a politician right over here to the other side. And now it's starting to look a little bit nicer. Moving on to step number 8. We want to select the 3 paragraphs beginning with guided learning. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. I'm going to find where it says guided learning, and I'm going to highlight these 3 paragraphs. Remember, in Word, a paragraph is considered anywhere that you have an enter button right here, this icon. Once we've highlighted this, we want to apply square bullets. So I'm going to come up here to my Home tab. Under my paragraph grouping here, I'm going to hit the down arrow next to bullets so I can select these square filled bullets right here. For step number 9, it wants me to, in the paragraph below the bulleted list, it wants me to click after the colon. So I'm going to go ahead and click right after the colon where it says our approach includes. Put your cursor right past that colon. Go ahead and hit the enter button to go down to a new line, but notice how that line is indented. We don't want it to be indented. So go ahead and hit the backspace key once, and that will get rid of that first line indent. Now it wants us to insert a numbered list. So we're going to come up here to our paragraph grouping, and I'm going to click on numbering right here. Just going to click on the icon, not the down arrow. And it will put a 1 in there for me. And now we want to type in and, not capitalize the I, introduction to what you will learn. Hit enter. A demonstration of the software, and hit enter. A guided software simulation. I cannot seem to type today. And do not hit enter. So, and just once again, anytime you type in text, just double check it, make sure that it is spelled correctly and you have the proper capitalizations, and everything looks good here. So now, step number 10 with our insertion point located at the end of the numbered list. So we didn't hit enter. Our cursor is still right after simulation. We want to insert a smart art graphic. Well, you might have already guessed, whenever you want to insert something, you go to the Insert tab. From the Insert tab, under Illustrations, here it is. Here's our smart art. Let's go ahead and click on Smart Art. And it wants us to insert a process, a closed chevron process. Well, we're going to go ahead and click on our process grouping here. And we're going to find the chevron. So I've got basic chevron process. And I have the closed chevron process right here. Remember, hover over each item to find out what it is. So I'm going to click on closed chevron process. And then once I do, hit OK. And it's going to take me down to the next page. Once we're done with our editing, it should bring it back up to the first page. But we'll get there in just a minute. So it says in the first shape. So let's go ahead and click where it says text right here. Let's go ahead and type in listen to discussions. And notice that I capitalized the L and the D. Let's go ahead and click in the second one and type in view demonstrations. And then in the third box, I'm going to click use software. And taking a look at everything, it looks good. Notice that it made the text small enough to fit in everything. And it's all uniform, looks very nice. For step number 11, it wants me to click on the outside border. So notice right now, even though this whole thing is selected, notice that I have dots just around this one chevron. If I were to make changes right now, it would most likely only change this chevron right here. And we wanted to make changes to the whole thing. So come up here and just go ahead and just quickly click on this dot right here. Just click on it once. And what that'll do is it'll keep the smart art selected. Notice the dots going around it. But it will deselect one of the chevrons, and now none of them are selected. It wants me to change the smart art color. So notice, once again, I have two contextual tabs that popped up. I have a smart art design and I have a format tab. So under my smart art design tab, I want to change colors. And I want to change the colors to accent colors 5 to 6. So under colorful, I want to find accent 5 to 6. And it looks like it's this one right here. Lastly, it wants me to apply a 3D polished style. Notice that I have these styles right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit the down arrow with the line above it right here. And under 3D, I'm going to find the one that says polished, and it looks like it's the first option. Once again, using that screen tip. So now for step number 12, we're going to change some of the formatting of this smart art. So same things. We're going to come up here to our layout button here. Now for my Mac users, you do have alternate instructions. So if you're doing this on a Mac, make sure you check step 12. There is a Mac alternate instruction. So let's go ahead and click on our layout options here. We're going to change our formatting here with text wrapping. Let's change it to square. And then let's go ahead and click on See More. We'll go ahead and click on our size button here. And we want to change our height to 0.75. So let's go ahead and change our height absolute to 0.75. And let's change our width, our absolute width, to 6.5. Make sure it says 6.5. Once you have the size change, you can go ahead and click on Position. From Position, we want to change the alignment, the horizontal alignment, to centered relative to page. And we want to change the vertical alignment to bottom relative to margin. Once you have all that changed, go ahead and hit OK. And it should move that back to the first page here, and it should put it right at the very bottom. If it put it somewhere else, you may want to go back and check steps 10 through 12 and see if there's something that you need to fix in order to keep it down here at the bottom. So now we're going to move to step number 13. For step number 13, we're going to be on page number 2 here. Let's go ahead and highlight Monday through Thursday all the way down to noon. So one other thing that we did not necessarily turn on, and you should get into the habit of making sure it's turned on for every assignment, is make sure that you have your ruler turned on. So notice that we have I have a ruler here on the side and at the top. If you do not see a ruler, click on the View tab. From the View tab, put a check mark next to ruler, which I have it selected. So just put a check mark next to ruler. Notice how I can turn it on and off. But you want to see that ruler. Then I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Home tab. And then still make sure Monday, Thursday, all the way down to noon is selected. It's highlighted. It wants us to set a right tab stop with dot leaders. So first things first, I want you to come over here. Don't click on anything, but I want you to hover over this little icon right here where the two rulers technically kind of meet. Notice that when I hover over it, it says left tab stop. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to change it to a centered tab. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on it again, and it's going to change it to a right tab. And notice how I have to move off of it and move back onto it. So now I have a right tab stop. So now I can go ahead and just come over to my 6-inch mark on my vertical ruler here at the top, or I'm sorry, my horizontal ruler. I can get just right below the 6 and I can click once. And notice that's going to put a right tab stop in there. And what that means is that after I typed in Thursday and I hit tab, it moved it all the way over to the 6-inch mark. That way it keeps everything in line. But our instruction says it wants a dot leader. So I'm going to go ahead and double click really fast on that tab stop. So I'm going to hover over that tab stop that I just created, and I'm going to double click really fast. And notice that it will bring up my tabs here. Notice that I already have a 6-inch tab set up here. So make sure you click on this 6-inch tab right here. Make sure you click on it. It has to be highlighted. If you create another one, it will not work properly. So make sure you click on this 6 right here. We want to do, it's a right tab stop, so that's good. We're going to do a dot leader, so make sure you select option number 2, which is the dots. And very important, you have to hit set. And once you hit set and hit OK, now we're going to have our dot leaders here. So it's going to have dots in between Thursday all the way over to the 9. And the same thing for Friday and Saturday. So now we are done with step 13. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to click off somewhere down here in the blank area to deselect it. And for step number 14, it wants us to insert a shape, a rectangle with rounded corners in the middle of page 2. So let's go ahead and come up here to our insert tab, because once again, anytime we want to insert something, most likely it's under the insert tab. And we're going to find under illustrations, we're going to find shapes. Let's go ahead and click on shapes. And under rectangle, let's find rounded corners, which I believe it's the second one over. And here it is, rectangles, second one over. Go ahead and click on that. And when you do, now when you hover over the blank area, notice I have these crosshairs. It changed from a cursor to crosshairs. And as long as you're somewhere in this blank area on page 2, it doesn't make a difference where you put this shape or how big you make it, because we're going to fix it in the next step. So just go ahead and somewhere here, just click hold, and just go ahead and draw that shape. I'm just going to go ahead and draw it right there. That looked good. Once your shape is created, notice once again I have my contextual tab that popped up for our shape format. I'm going to change the height to 1.5. So notice over here I have size. I'm going to go ahead and click on height and change it to 1.5. And I'm going to change the width to 6.5 and hit enter. Also for step number 14, it wants me to display the shape styles gallery. So I'm going to come over here. Notice I have my shape styles. I'm going to click the down arrow with the line above it, the more button. And it says 4th row, apply the last style. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it wants the last style. Looks like this green right here. So if I hover over it, it says subtle effect green accent 6. And I'll go ahead and click on that. And we're done with step number 14. For step number 15, it wants me to use the position command to display the layout dialog box and change the position so that both the horizontal and vertical alignments are centered relative to the margin. So we should be good with this now. We should know how to do it. Let's go ahead and click on our little layout options box here, or icon. And we're going to click on see more. And we want to do alignment centered relative to the margin. And then alignment is centered relative to the margin. Once I have alignment centered margin, go ahead and hit OK. And now we'll put it right where it needs to be in the middle of the page. Go ahead and click inside the box. Notice that you don't see anything when you click in it, but don't worry, you are clicked inside of it. And let's type in Biz Intel Media. Hit enter. Providing IT training for today's business workforce. Notice that all the words are capitalized except for the F and 4. Once you have this typed in, go ahead and let's highlight the text that we just typed. And we'll go to the Home tab here. Under the Home tab, we're going to change the font size to 20. And we're going to hit B right here for bold. And we are done with step number 15, and we're going to move to step number 16. So I'm just going to go ahead and click somewhere in this blank area here to deselect my highlighting. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way to the top of the document. At the top of the document here, it wants me to insert a text box above the title. Well, once again, we're going to go to the Insert tab. From the Insert tab, under my text grouping, I have an icon for a text box. And I'm going to click on text box, and I'm going to go all the way down here to the bottom where it says Draw Text Box. So I'm going to click on Draw Text Box. Once again, I'm going to get that crosshair again. And just somewhere in this blank area, I'm going to click and highlight and just put in a text box. Doesn't matter how big it is, we're going to change that in just a few minutes. Once you've created your box, notice once again we have our contextual tab. We are going to change the height to 0.5. So where it says height, let's change it to 0.5. Hit enter. And we're going to change the width to 3.7. So type in 3.7 and hit enter. Inside the text box, make sure your cursor's there. Let's type in Biz Intel Media. Make sure the B, the I, and the M are capitalized. It wants us to highlight the text. We're going to change the font size to 22. So I'm going to go to the Home tab, change the font size to 22. And I'm going to come up here to my paragraph grouping, and I'm going to click on the center button right here. And we are done with step number 16. Step number 17, we're going to click on the layout options button right here. And I'm going to click on See More to get to our layout options. Here we are going to use the horizontal. We're going to change the alignment, and we're going to change it to centered relative to the page. So centered relative to the page. For vertical, we're going to do an absolute position. So keep it at absolute position. And we're going to do 0.05. So I'm sorry, not 0.5. So we're going to do absolute position 0.5 below the page. So we're going to change it to page. So alignment centered page, absolute position 0.5 below the page. And go ahead and hit OK. And notice it's going to put it in the center of the page, exactly 0.5 below the top of the page. And let's go ahead and deselect our text, but we want to stay in the box. So just go ahead and let's click on the outer border of our text box. Just click on the outer border. And it wants us to display the shape styles gallery. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my shape format. And I'm going to come to my shape styles gallery, which is the down arrow with the line above it right here, the More button. And it wants me to select the 4th row last style. So 1, 2, 3, 4, last style. And then I'm going to go ahead and deselect my text box just by clicking in this paragraph here. Now for step number 19, we want to deselect our text box, which we've already done, and we want to apply a page border. So I'm going to come to my Home tab here. Under my paragraph grouping, notice that I have an icon right here that if I hover over it, it says Borders. I'm going to hit the down arrow next to Borders, and I'm going to go to Borders and Shading. So this is very important. You have to select Page Border. So make sure you click on the Page Border tab right here. We are going to do a box page border. We are going to select the double line setting. So right here under styles, I'm just going to hit the down arrow until I see a double line, which is this one right here. And under color, I'm going to click on automatic. And I want to do the last column, last color. So last column, last color, looks like it's going to be green accent 6, darker 50%. And I'm going to hit OK. Make sure it says whole document here, apply to whole document, hit OK. For my Mac users, you do have alternate instructions, so make sure you follow those instructions. So there it is, that is our completed document. We have our Biz Intel Media. It is a nice looking flyer, not too shabby. Let's go ahead and save this. So hit the save button up here. I'm going to hit this save button. You can also hit file, save if you like. However, I suggest that when you go to turn these assignments in, don't close them. Leave them open, just minimize them. That way, if you go to try to submit it and you can't find it, it's much easier to find it because it's still open. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to minimize it. And I'm going to come back here to my starting materials. I'm going to hit the X right here. Then I'm going to find where it says choose file. I'm going to click on choose file. Once again, it should be under our downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll to my downloads folder. And you're going to find the file with your name. Here it is. Here's mine. It just says student. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And then I'm going to hit open. Very important, make sure you hit upload. And it says success. So now I have to hit submit for grading. Very important, hit submit for grading. And when it's done, it should say kudos, your file has been submitted for grading. And go ahead and hit close assignment. And it should take us back to our Canvas module. But we want to see how well we did. So let's go ahead and hit the home button here. Under the home button, if you scroll down, you should see your MyLab IT student links. If you come to your MyLab IT student links and you click on MyLab IT Grades, and you can load it into a new window. And what that's going to do is it's going to take me to my grades in MyLab IT. And as you can see, Word 1G, I got 100%. If you got something less than 100, you can go ahead and click on the assignment. When you click on the assignment, notice that I get these options over here. And I want to view my submission. I want to see what I did wrong. In this case, I didn't do anything wrong, but if I did something wrong, I would click on View Submissions. I would click on my submission again, and here it would give me a list of anything that I did wrong. It would be in red. But once again, we got a perfect score. Hopefully you did too. I will be updating and creating all new walkthroughs during the summer. Hopefully I get to them before we get to the assignments. That is Word 1G training. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.